A boy reincarnates as a noble in the world of his favorite video game with the most overpowered abilities, but his family exiles him and replaces him with a thick goth girl. Why is everything about reincarnation and isekai these days? Well, I'm not complaining because I love them. Subscribe for more recaps, and let me know in the comments if you love isekai too. Now, let's get back to the video. This is the story of Elymas, a boy who died in his own world and was reincarnated without any memories as a character in a video game where your class defines your standing in society. There exists a class known as the Heavy Knight, a defense-focused role, essentially a tank, meant to draw enemy attacks toward itself during battle in order to protect its allies. Compared to other defensive classes, though, it isn't very versatile, since its weak offensive skills make leveling up difficult. As a result, it's widely regarded as an unfortunately flawed class. Several years have passed, and Elymas is about to undergo the ritual of the divine blessing as heir to the Edvon family. Among those present is his father, who tells him not to worry, since after all, he is his son. With that, the priest begins the ritual. A magic seal surrounds Elymas's body, and the priest calls out Baptisma, a divine spell that will grant our protagonist his class. Elymas, meanwhile, thinks that he's already experienced this before, though he tries to recall when, perhaps even before he was born. Then he remembers he had been obsessed with an online virtual reality game called Magic War, and this world is exactly like it. Realizing he has just been reincarnated, he assumes he'll come out on top this time around, since he already knows the game inside and out. All he hopes for now is the luck to get his favorite class considered the most broken one in the entire game. Just as he makes his wish, the ritual comes to an end. Elymas checks his stats and discovers he got exactly the class he wanted. Heavy Knight. Thrilled, he announces it to his father, who reacts with shock, asking if he perhaps means Swordmaster instead. Our protagonist doesn't understand why everyone around him is reacting this way. But then it hits him. The shock of his past life memories caused him to misunderstand how this realistic version of Magic World actually works. Here, simple, powerful classes that grow quickly in stats are praised and valued, while classes like Heavy Knight, which take far too long to develop, are looked down on, mainly because no one has properly tracked how these classes progress over time. Elymas grows nervous, but his father grabs his hand to confirm it for himself. Seeing the Heavy Knight class, he demands to know why his son ended up with something so pathetic. On top of that, his stats are low across the board, and none of his attacks stand out in any way, marking it as a defective class. Elymas asks him to calm down and tries to explain its advantages: enormous HP and defense that no other class can match. His father doesn't care in the slightest and strikes his son in disgust. Everyone present watches the scene in fear. The only small mercy is that it didn't happen in public, which would have been the family's greatest humiliation. Just then, footsteps approach the hall. A black-haired, red-eyed woman in armor walks in. Everyone remarks on how beautiful she is, though some wonder who she could be. We learn she's the daughter of a secondary branch of the Edvon family and a childhood friend of Elymas. Due to their difference in status, she and Elymas haven't spoken in 5 years, but now she has come to undergo her own divine blessing ritual, though this fills Elymas with a bad feeling. As the ritual begins, everyone falls silent, and once it's done, Malice checks her stats and finds she has received the Swordmaster class. This shocks everyone, especially when she apologizes to Elymas for having taken all of his talent for herself. His father immediately praises Malice for her class and declares that from this moment on, she will be his daughter and heir. To make matters worse, Malice laughs at Elymas, telling him he could never have handled the burden of being heir anyway. With that, the king orders Elymas to leave, declaring that he no longer considers him his son, since a Heavy Knight would only bring shame to the Edvon name. Everyone present sides with the king and Malice, praising his wise decision and leaving Elymas standing alone. He tries to reason with his father, explaining that his class could make him the strongest of them all, but his father won't listen, ordering him to get out and never show his face again, warning that if he ever speaks the family name again, he'll be beheaded. With that, he leaves with Malice, who keeps laughing in Elymas's face the whole way out, every bit the spoiled brat she is. Later, Elymas is thrown out of the mansion. The butler apologizes for not having done anything to help and hands him a few coins to get by, while Malice watches him go from the window, thoroughly pleased with herself. The scene shifts to the city of Rondalm, a place known for being packed with adventurers. Elsewhere, a small, upbeat jester is excited to take on some quests, though the other two members of her party, a redhead and a pale-haired woman, treat her with contempt, leaving her discouraged. Meanwhile, our protagonist arrives in the city. After renting a room, he sits on his bed thinking about what a piece of garbage his father is for putting him through hell. In the end, he lost his house, his family, and his old life. But looking on the bright side, he still has the Heavy Knight class, supposedly the strongest one in this world. With that thought, he takes a look around, realizing that this world's history, setting, and even its cities don't match the game at all. Because of this, he decides to investigate further. First, he decides to test out his class and abilities, checking his stats in hopes that Heavy Knight is still as broken here as it was in the game. He goes through each panel one by one, confirming everything is exactly the same. Next, he turns to the skill tree. It's explained that this determines which skill branches to invest in, and he currently has 5 skill points, the initial bonus points granted upon receiving a class, with 1 more gained per level. It's mentioned that it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that how you allocate these points determines your entire fate. There are 2 types of skills, fixed skills tied to each class, and skills assigned randomly when the character is created. Among his choices, Heavy Armor Oath is the only fixed skill, and it's considered the worst skill tree for the Heavy Knight. In truth, though, it's decently strong, just difficult to use, and many of its skills have limited applications. Defensive Reinforcement, meanwhile, is a fairly useful tree that grants no active skills but boosts defense. Finally, there's Basic Swordsmanship, which evolves into Advanced Swordsmanship with special equipment once fully maxed out. Without overthinking it, he puts all 5 skill points into Heavy Armor Oath, immediately leveling up that tree and gaining 10 extra defense points along with a new skill, Wall Reflex. Elamos is thrilled, convinced everything will work out. The scene shifts again, showing him fully equipped at the entrance to a forest, ready to begin his life as a knight, and after walking for several minutes, comes across a beautiful, calming lake. After taking in the view for a moment, he continues along the forest's various paths until he suddenly hears something rustling in the bushes. A frog jumps out. When he spots it, Elimas checks its stats, but the frog immediately lunges to attack. He draws his sword to prepare, but doesn't end up needing it, instead using his skill Wall Reflex, a barrier that both defends him and strikes back at the frog, finishing it off without any trouble. This levels him up from level 1 to level 2. It's explained that Wall Reflex is a common skill. It nullifies any enemy attack as long as it's melee, and deals damage equal to the user's defense stat. From the frog, he gets a level 2 magic stone. It's not worth much, but he keeps it just in case, until he hears someone calling for help. Elimas rushes toward the sound and quickly runs into the adventurer, also noticing that the forest is swarming with frogs. Elimas tells him he'll handle it. The fleeing adventurer, begging for his life, asks if he's really sure he can take them all on. Even imagining Elimas must be some famous figure given how confident he seems. Elimas answers that he's not, in fact admitting that he only leveled up for the very first time today. Hearing this drains what little hope the adventurer had left after all. How could you trust your life to someone clearly weaker than you? It makes no sense to him that a total beginner could take down so many monsters, and he doubts even that heavy armor will be enough to protect Elimas from all of them. Elimas, for his part, stays completely calm. He explains that Wall Reflex isn't a perfect skill. The damage the wall deals when defending is equal to the user's own defense stat. So your defense absolutely has to be higher than the enemy's attack power for it to work. Otherwise, the wall's effect won't trigger, and you'll be left exposed. He notes that Wall Reflex can be unreliable and dangerous against very powerful or unfamiliar enemies. But since he's a reincarnator from the game, he already knows every creature in it. Remarkably, Wall Reflex cancels out the attacks of frog after frog, taking them down one by one. It turns out that thanks to his game knowledge, he had prepared in advance, boosting his defense through gear and tree bonuses, allowing him to now take on dozens of frogs at once. All of them fall before his powerful wall, leaving the adventurer stunned, unable to believe what he's seeing. He asks how Elimas managed to defeat so many frogs, and just who exactly he is. Elimas starts to answer with his name, but stops himself before giving his family name, remembering the warning that speaking it again would cost him his head. So instead, he simply says his name is Elimas, the Heavy Knight. The instant every frog vanishes, Elimas' level jumps from 0 to 8, and he also earns the title of Unshakable. Checking his stats, he confirms the system works just like the one in Magic World. The adventurer he had rescued introduces himself as Aris and shares his story. He'd been told that if he couldn't reach level 3 on his own, no party would accept him, so he's deeply grateful for the help. Elimas brushes off the thanks, since he leveled up too, though he does intend to keep the magic stones for himself, which Aris is fine with. Aris then asks if Elimas would consider forming a party with him, since both of them are low level, and nobody wants to trust them with solo missions. Aris's own defense-oriented class, making him even less desirable as a partner. This brings back memories of how he reacted upon learning Elimas' class, but Aris sees him as amazing, and is confident they'd make a great team, promising to change everyone else's minds too. Still, Elimas would rather continue alone. Aris doesn't quite understand this, since it's obvious that a defense class would make solo leveling nearly impossible. Elimas doesn't really listen though. He apologizes and admits Aris has a point. He explains that defensive classes tend to shine by drawing enemy attacks and shielding allies, but dragging a group along means splitting experience, something that doesn't suit him, since he also wants to collect items, skills, and titles. Besides, he has no time to waste babysitting anyone. With that, Elymas continues on his way while Aris tries to talk him into changing his mind, only to be ignored until Elymas suddenly stops and turns around. A confused Aris looks up and notices something strange lurking above them. Suddenly, a giant spider drops from the trees and charges at them. Aris collapses to the ground, frozen with fear. Elymas checks its stats and discovers it's an Arveep, a monster with double his current level, putting him at a clear disadvantage in both level and abilities, especially against its slowing poison and flaming claw attack. Elymas considers different ways to neutralize it, but concludes none of his defensive options will really help. Rotten luck. Still, Aris gets back up and, despite his fear, offers to buy time. Noticing this, Elymas reassures him and moves toward the monster. With Aris shouting encouragement, Elymas opens his stats and invests the points he's earned into his branch, gaining the disarm skill, which temporarily reduces an enemy's attack by 20% on a successful hit. The fight begins as the spider lunges at him, but Elymas dodges. The spider then starts rolling, bouncing off the trees before slamming its legs down. Elymas evades again, and while blocking and deflecting each attack, notes that he's already read its attack patterns and range, so it won't get the better of him so easily. The spider slams a leg into the ground, forming a magic circle, then prepares a second spell from above and fires a poison beam at him. Rather than dodge, Elymas decides to tank the hit like a proper tank should. The spider's blast pushes him back slightly, but in that same moment, Elymas lands a disarm, slicing one of its eyes. The cut itself does no real damage, but it should weaken its attack. Enraged, the spider readies its flaming claw strike. Aris screams for Elymas to dodge, but it's too late. Elymas stands completely still and takes the hit head-on. Aris watches in despair, certain it's over. But as the smoke clears, Elymas walks out completely unscathed. He explains that the poison beam cost the spider 7 mana points, the flaming claw another 5, leaving it with only 4 mana remaining, meaning it can now only fight in melee. It tries to attack, but Elymas lands a second disarm, cutting it again and reducing its attack by 40% total. Meanwhile, his unshakable trait boosts his defense by 10% for holding his ground, evening the odds further. Despite the steep level gap at the start, Elymas overcame it through pure knowledge and strategy. His next move is to create distance, plant himself firmly, wait for the spider to attack, and use Wall Reflect to secure the win. Having defeated it, his level jumps from 8 to 12. The system informs him he can't add more points to Heavy Armor Oath. For now, though, it automatically levels up to 15, granting him the Repel skill. With that, he's finally unlocked all of his basic skills, which makes one wonder just how strong his ultimate will be. Aris again asks just what exactly Elymas is, having just watched him solo a spider that outclassed him. Unfortunately, poor Elymas ends up poisoned from the fight, so Aris helps him back to the city. Once there, the two part ways. Elymas goes to rest, but nightmares of his father plague him, and he wakes up remembering how Malice once looked down on him. The next day, Elymas heads to the Rondalm Adventurers Guild to register as an adventurer. Inside, we see him getting in line to sign up, with other adventurers nearby overhearing him. One of them laughs upon learning he's a heavy knight, but Elymas ignores it. Once his registration is complete, it's explained that there are 7 adventurer ranks, from F up to S, and reaching dungeon-eligible status requires rank E. It's also explained that his rank limits how many points he can invest into his class branch, so he plans to rank up as quickly as possible. The other adventurers laugh, assuming he's looking for a party. The receptionist, a bit awkwardly, explains that not many groups are looking for a squire, so it might take some time to find him one. Elymas reassures her and pulls out a magic bag, asking to exchange his magic stones. Seeing the sheer quantity and rarity of the stones, everyone in the guild is stunned. Quickly assuming he must be cheating, somehow Elymas simply ignores them, and with funds now secured for his new adventuring life, he feels ready to begin. First, he asks the receptionist if there are any rank-up quests available, and she hesitantly confirms there are. The scene shifts to a cemetery where a group of adventurers has gathered, Elymas among them, along with an old bearded man who, upon seeing him, questions whether he really beat an Arveip and decides to teach him a lesson that night. Elymas, overhearing everything, stays silent, holding back laughter and thinking he really can't seem to catch a break. Elymas explains that an assault mission is a rare chance to rank up, and he's simply grateful to be allowed to help. That's good enough for the old man, Gauten, who gets everyone moving. The hat-wearing mage, Till, uses his detection magic to scan the area for creatures and reports a horde of 30 enemies, hoping this skill will finally earn him his promotion to rank E. He then turns to Elymas, mentioning that his behavior has sparked several rumors around the guild. Elymas listens, but only to analyze Till's class. Till is a red mage with solid physical stats, capable of learning both offensive and healing spells. Till laments Elymas's class choice, to which Elymas replies that he's proud of what he is, making Till visibly uncomfortable. Yeah, they don't know yet. Illimus adds that red mages are notoriously hard to manage. They seem capable of everything, but back in the game they were heavily overshadowed. Naturally, though, people in this world tend to prefer easier, more straightforward classes. After this, Gauten runs through the mission briefing. The horde of undead is led by a necrophage head. Since Gauten is rank D, he'll handle it personally, but everyone else needs to watch their own backs. This worries the group, since the head is around level 30 and its breath can revive corpses, though Gauten himself is around level 40, so he should win. Still, rookies who might panic under a leader who won't be watching over them could be a real problem, putting their overall survival odds at around 80%. Because of this, Illimus asks Gauten for clearer instructions. Since they can't just blindly trust the mission report, if something unexpected happens, it'll already be too late. Gauten bristles at being told what to do, but Illimus speaks for the whole group, saying they don't trust their own low levels and need guidance. Grumbling, the bald man agrees at that point, though the blonde guy steps in and tells Illimus that only broken, defective classes like his actually need that kind of hand-holding. The other adventurers stay quiet, but murmur among themselves that they needed the instructions too, right? As that guy is mocking Illimus, both he and Gauten notice something off. Sure enough, the undead begin to emerge, and mid-sentence Gauten shouts for everyone to get up and clear a path alongside Paul. Meanwhile, Illimus studies the situation and the giant monster, ordering the other adventurers to handle the head's undead followers. They flatly refuse, worried they'll get surrounded and killed. The Heavy Knight sympathizes. None of them have ever faced a horde like this, let alone terrifying undead without any real instructions. As the zombies keep pouring in, Illimus orders them to form teams of 3 so they can watch each other's backs. They agree, but ask what he plans to do. Illimus says he'll pull the zombies' attention until they can regroup. One of them doubts he can manage that alone, being a slow Heavy Knight. Just then, an undead appears behind him with unsettling speed. It reaches him and tries to attack alongside others, rushing him at once, but one by one, Illimus repels and disarms them. He follows up with Wall Reflect, sending the zombies flying. He tells the group not to worry, he'll keep drawing the undead's attention, but to alert everyone immediately if anything unexpected happens. He continues clearing zombies, and the rookies watch in awe as he single-handedly takes on the horde, leveling up to 16 in the process. Confident in his use of repel, Illimus finds fighting them highly efficient. Checking his stats confirms how fast he's leveling, and his skill is so impressive that the rookies end up more afraid of him than of the zombies themselves. Inspired, the rookies start fighting too and clear out most of the horde. They ask Illimus if they should go help Gauten, but he's not that reckless. He knows the head is far above their level and trusts Gauten to handle it. Cutting to Gauten's fight, the head can only fight in melee, and Gauten sweeps it across the cemetery before landing a solid axe strike. The head crumples to the ground, then lets out a scream that raises more undead. Gauten orders Till and Paul to draw the zombies' attention, but they hesitate like cowards, though their fear is really about getting caught up in Gauten's fight. Meanwhile, Gauten dodges an attack from the head, then rushes in and uses Rockbreaker on it, making the creature writhe in pain. Illimus checks its stats and realizes just one more hit should finish it off, but the zombies start closing in around Gauten. One of the adventurers asks if they should attack the zombies, and Illimus says no. Right then, they watch the head devour the zombies indiscriminately. Checking stats again, Illimus sees the monster's health regenerating, realizing it has a corpse consumption skill. Extremely rare for a necrophage head, but something feels off since it shouldn't need to eat that many undead just to heal. At that moment, the head rises and unleashes a powerful roar. Seeing Gauten charge in for the attack, Illimus screams for him to back off, but the ponytailed old man doesn't listen. Just as he's about to reach the head, it releases a burst of energy, its body growing more muscular, signaling its evolution from necrophage head into a maddened head. Yeah, things just got a lot worse. Everyone is stunned, while Illimus scrambles to figure out what to do. It's explained that evolution is a rare phenomenon that occurs under specific conditions, mainly involving monsters, awakening dormant abilities, and transforming into new species to escape dangerous situations. Something practically unheard of in Magic World. So all Illimus can conclude is that they got extremely unlucky. Realizing the danger, he shouts for Gauten to get clear, but the old man doesn't have time, and takes the monster's breath attack head-on. Seeing this, Illimus orders Till to distract the creature. Till freezes in terror, protesting that attacking it will get him killed. Illimus reminds him that if Gauten falls, they're all finished, right? Then Gauten takes a massive hit that sends him flying, and the paralysis from the breath attack intensifies. Pinned to the ground and unable to move, he watches the monster close in, preparing to finish him off. Before it can land the blow, Illimus rushes in and blocks the attack. Ordering Till to get Gauten and cure his paralysis, Till shouts back that he can't. Instead of unlocking that skill, he chose to upgrade his attack power. Illimus is understandably disappointed by Till's garbage build, but tells him to get Gauten somewhere safe to heal, regardless. With that handled, Illimus starts studying the monster and its abilities, concluding he just needs to hold out until Gauten can rejoin the fight. Without hesitation, he draws the monster's attention and readies himself. The other adventurers watch in disbelief, since he's still technically just a rank F adventurer. One of them, assuming he's doomed, tells the others they need to run. Back with Elymas, hearing them flee actually relieves him, since now he won't have to protect anyone else. At that moment, the head lets out another powerful roar, reminding Elymas that a single mistake here means death. The head bulks up further and swings a fist at him. He dodges with a jump, retreats, then sprints off across the cemetery, the head chasing immediately behind. It stops abruptly when he vanishes from sight. Scanning the cemetery, it sees no one, but Elymas is sprinting behind the gravestones. The head tracks him with its eyes, refusing to lose sight of him. Elymas throws a rock as a distraction. The head turns toward the noise, and he darts out to strike from behind. The head reacts instantly and swings at him. He barely escapes with a jump and readies his guard, but the head has vanished again. He scans around, focusing to locate it, only for it to burst up from the ground right behind him. He turns just in time, but this time the head connects, sending him bouncing across the ground and crashing through several gravestones. Everyone watching admits the level gap is genuinely terrifying. Elymas drops to his knees, propping himself up with his sword. Under any other circumstances, he'd have avoided this fight entirely. But now, he has to take the risk to win and survive, and despite the fear, the thrill of pushing his limits actually excites him. Getting back up, he immediately charges forward, cracking the ground beneath him. One adventurer wonders aloud whether a heavy knight could possibly keep pace with a monster like this. His companion calls it ridiculous, certain the miracle will end sooner or later. Elymas attacks and dodges but can't land a real hit. More than anyone, he knows the head could land a devastating blow at any moment, and he needs to counter before that happens. With that in mind, he dumps all his points into leveling up basic swordsmanship to level 5, unlocking Precision Strike, a skill that lets him land a heavy blow against high defense targets. The fight resumes. The head attacks, but he guards with Repel, closes the distance, dodges around behind it, and lands a Precision Strike straight across its back. Everyone watches, stunned, as Elymas gauges the outcome and notices the monster growing even more enraged. He explains that Precision Strike trades sword range for raw damage, which is why it's usually considered a weak skill, but for a high defense, low damage class like his, it's actually quite useful, though still not enough to take this creature down alone. He keeps attacking and repelling as the head grows increasingly feral. But that's where his turn ends, because Gauten, having healed up, reappears and finishes the head off with his Dragon Slayer slash. The adventurers cheer the victory, while Elymas sighs in relief, jumping 7 levels in the process. Gauten, for his part, reflects on how unusual it is to see a rank F adventurer survive a monster of that caliber. Elymas thanks Gauten for saving them, but the old man stays quiet for a moment before apologizing for his own incompetence. As thanks, he offers Elymas the monster's entire drop. Looking at the magic stone, Elymas assumes it's worth a fortune and asks Gauten if he's sure. Gauten confirms it, though. He pauses thoughtfully when he sees the shield. The monster dropped. Elymas asks if he wants it instead. Gauten declines, reaffirming his decision to hand everything over, though he can't resist checking the item's description. Reviewing it, Elymas discovers it can block attacks and boost the power of his next strike, and that it's worth 3 million gold. Catching the bald man's attention later, Elymas talks to Gauten about his promotion. The old man reassures him, promising he'll tell the guild to rank him up, and that anyone who objects will get a good beating. Yeah, this old man doesn't mess around. At that point, Till approaches, asking about his own promotion. Gauten's attitude shifts entirely, calling out how cowardly Till was for freezing up in fear. Disappointed, he orders Till to go complete more missions. Defeated, Till slinks off, but not before glancing back at Elymas. Dawn breaks, and the group heads back to the city and the guild. The receptionist hands out the mission rewards. First a bag containing 130,000 gold, then another with 200,000 for the 10 magic stones, and finally an additional 600,000 coins for the stone from the evolved necrophage head. Seeing that total, the other adventurers are floored. The old man laughs, congratulating Elymas on such a haul. Hearing this, the other adventurers start questioning whether the heavy knight somehow cheated. Even the receptionist asks Gauten to confirm everything's legitimate. Elymas simply ignores the comments, but Gauten loses his patience, slamming the table and shouting at everyone, demanding to know if they're questioning his judgment on approving the promotion. Afterward, they leave the guild, and Elymas thanks Gauten for all his support. The old man accepts the thanks and heads off without much else to say, now free. Elymas considers what to do next now that he's reached rank E. He could head into dungeons to earn more gold, but notes that Wall Reflect scales with defense and is really only strong early on. So for now, he should focus on leveling up. But if he truly wants to become strong, he needs to track down the grimoire known as Fang of Latent Madness. Grimoires help unlock powerful skills, but are notoriously hard to find, though well worth the effort. If he could combine his heavy armor oath with that grimoire, both would max out his defensive class, transforming the heavy knight from a mere shield into a human weapon. That grimoire, Fang of Latent Madness, is the key to unlocking his class's full potential.